we're going to get going. So local school council training session 23-24 is officially underway. All right, the original purpose. Like, why did these local school councils, what did this and how did this come about? And yeah, I'm going to just basically be reading through the slides, so I apologize, but that's how I stay on script. The original purpose was to try to bring the community, the parent community, the business community, together with the local schools to ensure that everybody had an understanding as to what was going on at school, and everybody would have a voice in the direction of the school, the big picture direction. Bringing communities closer together. The ultimate goal of a local school council, just like the ultimate goal of most everything that goes on at school, is for student achievement, and to make sure that we are leading our students in this county. Certainly the guiding principle for us, K through 12, is the learner profile, and that is the North Star for everything that we do, including LSCs. LSCs were also put together to try to provide support for teachers and staff, not in the same vein as a PTO, but just the more people that are knowledgeable about what goes on in a school, the better supportive you can be when you understand what the big picture is. And certainly bringing parents into the school decision-making process. Not that it's a town hall meeting, and not that the principal is going to sit and go through every decision they make, because they make hundreds of decisions a day. But when we talk about the big picture direction of the school, this is where we're talking about wanting to make sure that parents have a voice in that. It's there to help the Board of Education. You guys as local school council members will be asked from time to time to give feedback that's going to go directly to the Board of Education. They value that feedback. You can put surveys out there, and we do, and you get a lot of feedback online, and that sometimes you'll have some parents that are really focused on doing what's best for school. Other times you'll get, and I won't even say parents, but you'll get people that go onto those survey sites, and they want to air out everything that they're angry about, whether it has to do with the topic or not. The feedback you get from a local school council, if you're the Board of Education, is so invaluable, because you are so entrenched in a part of what goes on with the school, and you understand really the spirit behind the questions that they're asking. So they put a lot of weight into the feedback that you provide through your principals back to the Board of Ed. And here, I won't read every bullet point on the slide, but you can see the general spirit of what LSCs were about. Okay, basic structure. Every LSC is guided by a set of bylaws. There was a template set by the State Board of Education, and when this law was enacted back in the early 2000s, I think. But then it was left to each local school council then to craft, along with the principal, their own set of bylaws. Most people have stuck with the basic bylaws and the basic precepts that are in here. But there are on occasion reasons for you to amend that, and every set of bylaws should have an amendment process built into it that principals and LSC presidents can kind of kick into action. Each LSC member represents the community of parents and businesses affiliated with that school. If you're on an LSC, there really should be a minimum of 7 members, and the majority of that needs to be parents, people that have children at that school. So if you happen to be on an LSC and you're sitting there and there's 12 teachers and staff and 3 parents, that's the sort of thing you need to address with your principal, and you need to make sure that you get word to me about, because that violates the spirit of what this law was enacted for. It should be a majority of parents, okay? And again, the minimum number is 7. Ooh, and I got ahead of that slide, so that's good. All right. At least 2 parents or guardians involved should also be business people, because we need the business community represented in these as well. All right, this is what the basic structure looks like. You'll have a principal. This would be the minimum size group, but a principal, 2 teachers, and then a couple of parent business persons, a couple of parents that are straight up parents and maybe don't have any businesses. You certainly can go beyond these minimal numbers, and I think most of them have. Most have, I would say, in the neighborhood of 3 to 5 parents, a couple of business folks, and then the principal and a couple of staff. Members elected to LSC, and unless your bylaws have been changed, the original set of bylaws that were put out there where LSC members would serve 2 years. We encourage principals when you're setting your elections up, and we do have a lot of new principals on this call today too, so this is their part of their training along with yours. But we encourage principals to try to set their elections up in a way that's staggered. So in 2 years, you're not wiping out the entire LSC and replacing it with a new one. The best thing to do is have that staggered so that every year you've got some veterans back with you. When you have brand new schools opening or you have leadership changes at schools, sometimes this isn't a perfect science, and so that's where some amendments to the Constitution or the bylaws have been made, and you just have to flow with it. This is not something that anybody should become super legalistic about. All right? It's a school operation. And the ultimate is to capture the spirit of this, which is to make sure that we've got parent voice and community business partner voice in there. But we encourage our principals to stick to the bylaws the best that you can. That's the best way to stay out of trouble, is to stick what you have collectively come up with for your bylaws. All right, those wishing to run must be parents or guardians of that school. We had a situation, things have to be put in sometimes you never would imagine you have to put in. But we had some folks running at one school just in the last couple of years that had no children even affiliated with that school. And then we had another election where somebody running was having everybody in their family from here to Ohio and beyond vote in the election. And so things have been made to rectify that. To run for a position in LSC and to vote for membership to LSC, you must have children in that school. That's the eligibility requirements to vote. All right, enough said about that. If vacancies are there, you should have an election within 30 days. Parent business persons are appointed. Those are not elected, but the principal knows who the business partnerships are with at that school, the partners in ed, so he or she have the authority to appoint those memberships. You will have some officers that will be elected by the official members of the LSC, a chairperson, which must be a parent, and then you'll have a vice chair and a secretary. The bylaws that everybody has should guide that process. All right, major operations. All right, the bylaws are really that's your guidebook. All right, so anytime there's questions, go to the bylaws. You and your principal together. If there's something there or nothing there that answers the specific question, it may be something that just as a group you vote on and change or add. If it's something really structural, then you should probably go through your amendment process. All right, if you do that, if you do a major amendment or adopt major changes that are going to alter the structure of the bylaws, then you need a 2/3 vote by the official members of the LSC. And I keep saying official members because local school council meetings are open to the public. So they have to be advertised. So when you have an LSC meeting, you may have 30 people show up, and it may look similar to a town hall meeting. The reality is, though, only those folks that were appointed by the principal and elected per the bylaws, those are the only ones that have actual voting rights and speaking rights at an LSC meeting. And when it comes time to vote, the 2/3 is just talking about 2/3 of those that make up the official LSC body. All right, meeting times and dates. What most schools will do is the principal generally will call that very first meeting, and then at that first meeting, you'll set the calendar for the rest of the year, and the group will vote on that. All meetings to be official must have a quorum. Whoop, did I go back? 1, 2, okay. Minimum number of meetings. Principals, very important that you guys hear this, but minimum number of meetings is 4 times per year. You must advertise these in advance using all the means that you would advertise for any sort of school happening. You've got Infinite Campus, Messenger, you've got your website, you've got all your social media, all those different ways, and even in front of your tenant's office, it makes sense to put an advertisement there. But all the ways that you would traditionally advertise big happenings at your school, you must announce when your LSC meetings are coming up. All right. Minutes must be captured, so there needs to be a secretary that is capturing these. What a lot of schools have done in the past is you may have an LSC parent who's elected as the secretary, and certainly the minutes will be turned in the secretary's name. But what a lot of schools will do, a lot of principals will have one of their own clerical staff who are trained in taking minutes. A lot of schools will have that person sit in on the meeting, not as a voting member, but just be there to record everything, and then the secretary will review those minutes and then submit from there. So if you see that happening, that's pretty normal. Like the Board of Education meetings, anything that is spoken about in there is open record. And so it's really important that when you set these meetings up, that everybody interacts in the most professional manner, because anything you say or do in there is recorded in the minutes, and those minutes are subject to open records. And these shouldn't be anything where you have anything to hide, just like an open board meeting should not be anything that you have to hide. But sometimes, and I'll address this at the very end, but sometimes an LSC meeting can go along an individual's agenda, and we urge you to not let that happen, but every now and then it goes there. And those are not things that you would want out there, splashed all over. That would be probably more appropriate for you as a member to have a one-on-one meeting with a principal to go through, and not do it when you're on the record. But we'll talk about that a little bit at the end. LSCs may, if there's a particular topic that you want more information about, you can work with the other members of the LSC and work with the principal and put together a focus group or a task force and get more information that you want. That's totally appropriate. You can request information from the Board of Ed or the district office. That is wholly appropriate, and it happens a lot. And ultimately, your Board of Ed, your district administration, we're here to support, what you guys are doing in those local school council meetings. So long as that support is aligned to doing what's best for the school and for student achievement, we're certainly here to help. The LSC may provide recommendations to the Board of Education. The first thing out of the gate that you guys will get as LSCs meet this fall is you guys will get a sneak preview of I guess this is 23, 24, so you guys will get a sneak preview of the 25, 26 student calendar, and we'll have a chance, you'll have a couple of weeks to kind of pour over that and analyze it, and then provide your feedback back to the principal or back to your LSC, and all that feedback will be shared with the Board of Ed. And again, like I said, there will be surveys that go out to the community, and we read through every one of those. Is helpful and as creative and as crazy as some of those elements of feedback may be. That LSC feedback, though, carries a lot of weight. So take that responsibility very seriously. If for some reason your principal moves or retires, and you're in a situation where your school's going to get a new principal, it'll be the local school council that sits down with our director of human resources and our superintendent, and will give your feedback on the direction that you believe your school should go and the characteristics you're looking for in a principal. And I will just tell you, I've witnessed myself as someone who recommends people to be principal. In the last 2 years, there have been situations where LSC feedback comes in, and it adds a perspective that we didn't take into account or didn't think about as a hiring committee for principal, and it's caused us to rethink who we send to Dr. Bearden for our group's approval. And in both of those cases, I will tell you, the LSCs were dead on, and those have been incredibly positive hires. Oh, and I got ahead on that side too. Look at there. All right. Okay, major topics for discussion at LSC meetings. I put in quotes, it's an advisory board. It's not a decision-making body, and that sometimes can be frustrating that you'll give what you think is great input and a lot of analysis, and it doesn't necessarily break your way, and you get frustrated. Please remember, you're there to lend voice to it, to lend perspective to it. At the end of the day, the person being held accountable for decisions at the school is going to be the principal. So at the end of the day, a wise principal will seek your advice and consult with you, but at the end of the day, the buck stops with the principal. They're the ultimate decision maker. I'm not going to read through all these bullet points. You can see them, but these are These are a lot of the topics and major focus that most LSCs take on. And these are the sorts of things, as principals are watching this, these are the sorts of things that you should make sure you've got reports ready to go, so that when your LSCs, maybe recommend that you go over a topic or two at each subsequent meeting, that you've got reports ready to go for these. Continued focus of LSC, what you saw in the last one was really at the local school level. But then you've also got things like school board policies that are beyond the local school level, and those are certainly appropriate for discussions there. One example of this I will tell you is there have been a couple of local school councils who have had concerns about overcrowding at their school, so they want to know more about the redistricting process, and so they've asked for myself or Matt Wark, who's the director of facilities, to come in and kind of give them a report on what's going on with that. When a SPLOST referendum may be on the ballot, we'll make sure that we've got a variety of different people from the district office. Upon invitation from our LSC, we'll go out there and explain what projects are coming up and why this one is coming before that one, and talk through all that with you. So again, we are here to serve, but at the end of the day, it's up to you as an LSC, as a body, to put out those requests for the information you're most concerned or most interested in. And then just some reminders. It's really important, this is the one that I said I would come back to. It's really important to remember that as an LSC member, you're representing your entire school community, not any special interest group or club or team of which your child's a member of. In short, you're there to represent the whole community, not your own personal agenda. And I don't try to say that in a harsh way, but every LSC meeting that I ever had in my 7 years as principal at Forsyth Central, every meeting that ever went slightly off the rails, every one of those was tied because someone came in with a personal agenda that they wanted to air out at the LSC, and it really took the focus off of what was good for the community and what was good for that specific group, and whether it's a basketball parent that comes in and wants to air out their concerns with the conditions of the locker rooms, or a band parent comes in and doesn't like the fact that a particular concert was canceled. Those are all incredibly valid questions for an individual parent to have that should be addressed with the principal and the athletic director or the activities director. But that's not the sort of thing that you come in angrily to an LSC meeting and use that as your opportunity to advance your own agenda, okay? The things we're coming in here about are about what is good for the entire school, and student achievement being the primary driver of the conversations. Facilities, of course, are a big part of that. Overall school policies, school board policies, all that list of things you saw are all very important. But I just can't hit enough times that if you got onto an LSC because you have a personal agenda to drive, there's an avenue for that, but it's not the LSC meetings. Successful LSCs see themselves operating as a team. I could give the same speech that I've heard Dr. Bearden and our board chair talk to our school board about, that what has made our school system so great through so many years has been our governance team's cohesiveness and unity. And certainly when you have changes, then it takes some time to bring that team together. Same is true with LSCs. Really successful LSCs operate as a team. And the principal isn't necessarily the head coach of the team, but in basketball speak, I guess you would say, is the point guard, or in football speak, I guess would be the quarterback, or in orchestra speak, maybe it's the first chair, if that's, am I missing any metaphors I should be going into? I don't want to leave anybody out. I can kill the sports ones. Once we get in the fine arts, my kids are fine arts, so I've got a couple examples there, but probably not quite as deep. Trust is certainly vital, as it is with all relationships at the school level. Positive communication is certainly the key to that trust. Members of great teams, and I don't care whether it's a band or an orchestra, a drama production, a governance team at the Board of Ed level, or an LSC, great teams are made up of people who all understand what their roles are. LSC members are the advisors, the principals are the deciders, but a good principal is going to lean into that advice, and a good advisor is going to try to empathize with the situation that the principals face. Focusing on what we are all for, rather than all the things we stand against, is probably the best piece of advice that I could give all local school councils. This is what guided, about 2.5 years ago, we put together our new strategic plan for the school system, and we put that together in the midst of what was really some cultural warring going on, and some tough times at our board meetings, and really intense times as we came out of the pandemic. And the reminder that we gave everybody at every one of those strategic planning meetings was, this is not the place to hash out all the things that we're against. This is the place to talk about what is it we can all commonly stand for. And as a result, we ended up with a really positive, really forward-thinking strategic plan. The same is true for our LSC meetings. If you go into those and you remind, if you're the president of the LSC or you're the principal of the school, if you start every meeting out with reminding what we are here for, and that we're here to build on that common focus of what we're for, then that's the startup to a great team atmosphere. And this is just a reminder of what we say we stand for as a school system. This comes directly from our strategic plan. Ultimately, what we're shooting for is a safe, connected, and thriving community for all of our stakeholders: students, parents, business partners, teachers, staff members. All of us do better when we're safe and connected. And these are the belief statements that our community came up with. And when you read through those, I hope that everybody here and everybody online would agree with these five beliefs. These are the ultimate 4 that we stand for as a school system. All right, that's the end of the script. At this point, any questions that we have, I'll be happy to answer from the crowd, or if you're watching in the chat room, if you can throw them out at me. And if I can't answer them, or don't want to answer them on camera, then I'll find some clever way of getting out of that, and then I'll talk to you one-on-one later. Any questions online that we've got? Nothing in the chat rooms? How about here in person? Any questions at all? And again, this PowerPoint will be on our website. The video of me droning on up here, will be on our website. And the original law that enacted this, I spent about 20 minutes going through that last year, and the room just glazed over. So I've decided this year that we're just going to put the law online, and you can go read that exciting piece of legislation on your own. Question? Yes, ma'am.
So this is the first year that I've done LSC.
Yep.
But I think we, as you indicated, there have probably all been to that meeting where there's been that one parent or that one situation. If we are in that type of situation, and because it's public record, I'm assuming there's things written in bylaws, and I haven't seen them yet, but bylaws about conduct and what is to happen, decision making.
Yeah, I don't, and the question, I'm not sure you could hear that online, but the question that was asked was, if you find yourself in one of those situations where things maybe go off the rails a little bit with somebody's agenda in an LSC meeting, are there things in the bylaws that guide conduct? What I would say is, it depends on the bylaws for the school. And the template, I don't know that there were specifics speaking about individual behavior, but I think it raises a great point. And what I would share with principals and LSC presidents is, it's always important at the start of each LSC season, and really to remind at the start of each LSC meeting, is the set of norms that you guys agree to. So at that first meeting, establishing those norms, everybody committing to those, and then referring to those at each subsequent meeting, I think is vital. I think when these were put together, we didn't see quite the animated populace that we see right now. So I think you raise a really good question. But I would also say that it's really rare that we've seen any sort of infighting or angst come out at an LSC meeting. When I say go off the rails, I really just mean they slide off topic and agenda, and you can go down a wormhole that can take, an hour to get out of, and people's time is valuable. So setting those norms, I think, would be the way to go with that. I hope I answered your question. Great question. Any other questions out there? Nothing in the chat room? All right. Well, I appreciate everybody giving their time this morning. Y'all, we have, I could all day long be a cheerleader for our school system. We just have a tremendous school system. There are always things we can do to get better. And Dr. Bearden, our superintendent, constantly reminds the principals in our system, as well as everybody that works for him at the county office, that we are either getting better or getting worse, but there's no such thing as status quo. And that constant reminder goes out there, and so we know there are always things we can be doing better. Your advice, when rooted in doing what's best for our system and tied to how we can do what we're for better, is invaluable advice, and we seek that. And it really is why our school system is as successful as it's been, is we have always had a level of partnership and trust with our community and with our parents. Notwithstanding some complaints that occasionally are put out there on social media, and there are times when people are really angry and they let that lion out of his cage out there. But a few angry voices on social media should never take away from the fact that at our 42 schools and of our 55,000 families, we really have a tremendous level of trust. That's important for us as a school system to recognize that's the foundation of our success. And so we're always going to continue to strive to make that trusting relationship even stronger. So I thank you all for being here. I thank you guys for being online with us. And if you have any questions, you can email me at myoung@forsyth.k12.ga.us. Again, that's myoung@forsyth.k12.ga.us. We wish you all a safe and happy Labor Day weekend and a great school year. Take care.